So I am going to go out and walk around the neighborhood. This is a perfect night. I thought it was going to rain today, but it doesn't look like it's going to rain at all. It's very nice. This neighborhood is semi-rugged, you know. It's I think not even a middle-class neighborhood. I have to write this thing about myself as sort of an introduction. I guess every teacher's doing it. I forgot what they call it, but I think they're going to publish it in something. It's to tell about what we do and who we are in our professional life and so forth. I'm walking around. We have market. There's a market in my neighborhood today, and I'm going to go over Teda's house. Teda just recently died. She was in Fitness First, I think they call it, and when you start with the exercise gym, they want to give you a trainer, and they're not interested in you if you don't want the trainer, because they lose revenue. So you're entitled to go in there with your card as a member and use any machine and so forth, but you don't have anybody supervising you. But they try to push the trainer on you when you come in. And she didn't do that. And they have a room where they have saunas, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And normally a trainer, if they're assigned to you, for as long as you want, for 2 hours or as long as you're going to be there, they will stay with you. So she didn't take them up on the trainer. You know, I'm sure she's money conscious, and she's a terrific lady. I know her 25 years. So she went in the sauna, and that's it. She died. And I just went to her funeral, and I miss her, and I think about her every day. I remember her smile. And basically I met her and another older lady that wanted me to help them with English conversation. I taught them for 2 or 3 lessons, and I just became her good friend. So her son was into construction, and she's been through many businesses to scrape a living together. And well, anyhow, she died in a sauna, and my God, she was in the sauna for 7 hours, and they discovered her. So the police investigated it, and I think they did an autopsy on her to see what she died of. I think she died of a stroke. It was horrible. She was baked, and the flesh, you know, her flesh was just destroyed by the sauna. So saunas are healthy, but it's not something you want to do unsupervised or without a timer, you know. 10 minutes in the sauna is a very long time. And it's twilight, which is my favorite time of the day. This and dawn are my favorite times of the day. But as I've gotten older, I sleep better, believe it or not. And I think that's a result of my healthy diet. I just came home with 4,000 baht worth of groceries, which include bananas, frozen berries. I make a shake for myself. And this guy does not know that I'm walking over his house. I don't know whether he'll want to go and take a walk with me, but I'll see. This is Teda's husband. He's been a great friend, and we know them since I built my house here 25 years. I've lived in this village. And did I make a lot of friends here? No, I didn't make any friends. That's why I do this. I entertain myself by speaking my mind, and I think it's a lot better than paying a counselor to listen to you. So I'm just going to see if he's out and if he wants to walk around. And if he does, I'd be delighted to make it a habit of 2 or 3 times a week to have a partner. He's a really nice guy, and he's a former soldier. And he's such a quiet man. And he's always offered me rides, and I always want to walk. So I really don't know if he's even home. It doesn't look like they're home. He's not even here. We tried calling her. It's very strange. Her phone rings. Walking is good for you, you know. It's what people should do. So every opportunity. And I've taken enough doctors. I take doctors' advice very seriously, and there are a lot of really smart people on the internet. So modified my diet to only whole foods. I don't eat any processed food at all, and I try to limit carbohydrates as much as possible. But I have to say that I still, once in a while, have a bagel with salmon on it and a tiny bit of cream cheese. I mean, that's a real luxury, but I can't say that it has anything to do with health. First of all, salmon is not what you think it is. It's premium and very expensive here in Thailand, but it also is grown on a farm. So even if it comes from Norway, in the fjords, they have these farms where salmon are kept very close to each other. They're fed antibiotics, lots of medicines, and they get nice and fat, and there's no room to swim. And their flesh now is actually pretty poisonous, so it's not a good fish to eat. I used to love it, and at one time when it wasn't farmed, it was a very high protein, a lot of omega-3s, but not as much as flaxseed. Flaxseed has more omega-3 than anything has. So it's probably better to eat flaxseed and grind. You have to grind it up because the husk keeps the omega-3 trapped in it, so it doesn't really get digested. Closer to Thai than I am to anybody else. This little guy over here, I'm going to switch the camera around so you can see him. This little guy over here. Hello. Hello. How are you? I'm making a movie of you. I'm making a movie of you now.
Okay.
Yeah. How you been? สบายดีไหม
สบายดี
ดี
Mister very good
Yeah.
ไปไหนเนี่ยวันนี้
ผมชอบเดิน
อย่า
Yeah. And คุณเดินไหม
เล่นอะไร
Exercise.
exercise
Yeah.
ที่ไหนอ่ะ
คุณอายุเท่าไหร่
65
So he's 65 years old.
ใช่
And I'm 82.
เอ้ยอย่า very good very good good idea
Yeah, so I'm walking tonight.
walking.
Yeah, for
walking
exercise.
ISB
No, I'm not. I don't work at ISB. ผมทำลำintra
อ๋อร้าน
ซอย34
ไอ้ย่า
โรงเรียนนานาชาติด้วย
อ๋อนานาชาติ
ใช่ว่าเป็นไทย
อ๋อ
นานาชาติ
ไอ้ย่า
Yeah, so นักเรียนมนไทย
ยังสอนอยู่ที่เชอร์
ผมสอน65 ปีแล้ว So
good
anyhow, take care of yourself.
อ่า
This is the guy. This is the guy that I give all my electronics to. So yeah,
I see
I can see myself right now, and I'm hoping my teeth don't fall out. Yeah. Basically, I was an art teacher, but I got involved with teaching narrative film and literacy of narrative film. So I took the kids. It was an all-boys high school. And if you ask me why that is, it's because girls were getting pregnant in high school. So the city fathers, in their incredible, crazy wisdom, decided to have an all-boys public high school and an all-girls public high school, and that would solve the pregnancy problem. Well, do you think it solved the pregnancy problem? No, it exacerbated it, and there were more girls getting pregnant, teenage pregnancies than ever in the city. But the schools, Jefferson High School is probably 150 years old, 160 years old, so it's very old. And then when women's rights came along, and there were women's lib groups all over the place, they protested and they sued the city, and the city integrated their high school with boys and girls going to school together, and that resulted in a brand new building which could handle 1,000 or more children. Don't forget, this is an urban city, Elizabeth, New Jersey. And the face of New Jersey and the face of Elizabeth has changed a lot now. And at one time there were a lot of white professionals living in the city, because it's actually a colonial city that was on the route of George Washington. And there are signs everywhere that George Washington stayed in this house, and they preserved those colonial houses from that time, because George Washington, he and his troops moved through New Jersey, and if you trace his history, he went to Morristown, which is quite far away. And Morristown to this day is not as blighted as Elizabeth is, but Elizabeth is suffering from urban blight and crime off the charts. And a lot of the kids that I graduated with became police. So I was teaching filmmaking, and I was making narrative films with these boys, and what do you think they wanted to make movies of? Gangsters. They wanted to be gangsters and pimps and things like that. Yeah, that reflect the movies that were, you know, of the day. So we made films, and it was about a gang, and there was one girl in my class, because they didn't have filmmaking in the girls' high school. So she took my class, and she was a white girl. My class was mostly Spanish and black, and so she was the victim. She was kidnapped. So it was about a guy who worked for a corporation, and he was going to be blackmailed, or she would be kidnapped, and there'd be a ransom set up to get his wife back. And of course the gang members didn't get along with each other. There was a guy who, one of the black guys, his name was Mark. I absolutely remember everything we did. We made an hour of film, and the title of the film was Chain of Evil. Well, I want to tell you, I had the toughest guys in the school in my class, and making that movie was the most exciting thing they ever did in high school. And it was impromptu, so that every scene was, we in those days we had blackboards. We would write out what's going to happen, an outline of the movie, and then the language was a lot of impromptu language. So as the actors, they'd put their own style into the character that they played. It was gang members were about 9 guys, 9 kids. And these spanned 10, 9, 11, 12th grade. Of course, these kids never did this before. They made like a feature film. And this was a film was done in Super 8. So if you're a techie person, or you love cameras the way I do, I love the camera, but it doesn't love my face very much. Super 8 was the gauge of the time, and they made a film called Chain of Evil. And because most of the guys that graduated with me became cops in the town, I was able to have chase scenes filmed. So the police would come and cordon off streets, and then a police car, we used my art teacher's car. He had a red Cadillac convertible, perfect for a pimp. And Mark had a big Stetson black hat that was decorated. And in those days, I can't think of the name of the movie that was so exciting, because it was the first real film with black actors. But it was about a guy who actually looked like a pimp. And we had this guy in the class who had more facial hair than anybody, and he had a goatee, and he was a pretty tough character. But most of the kids in that school came from broken families, and mostly were black and Spanish. So I tell you, the whole city was having a big influence of Cubans at the time, and also Portuguese. So now when you go back to New Jersey and Elizabeth, it's chiefly Spanish, and all the signs at City Hall are not in English, they're in Spanish. And we had an Irish mayor who was mayor of the city for 24 years. He was mayor. And I used to call him mayor, and I worked for him, because in those days, this is going to be on my the resume that I'm going to write about myself. I was a puppeteer. I was working in the high school teaching cinematography, film animation, and believe it or not, in the art department, I was teaching another course called sound recording. I had a 24-track studio, and I used to make films for entertainers that needed a master reel that they could take with them. Basically, I was making sound recordings. I had an Nagra 42L. It's made in Switzerland, and that recorder in those days, that's 1967. That recorder is made in Switzerland, and they only make one a week, and it's $6,000. And I borrowed that money from my mother. I don't think I ever fully paid her back, and she never came at me for that money. I told her I wanted to be a non-union sound guy for filmmaking, and then I needed mics. Microphones are very expensive, and one of the chief West German brands is Sennheiser. So I needed a Sennheiser shotgun, and another very popular company is from Vienna, and it's called Bayer. And they make the best mics in the world. And the West German mic that was used the most in studios was a Neumann, or it's German, it's West German. It was called U87. And I didn't know how to get the money together, because each microphone was about almost $2,000 at the time, a studio microphone. These are full condenser microphones. And they're still used in recording studios today for Whitney Houston, who comes from New Jersey, by the way. She was my neighbor. She lived in Newark, New Jersey. Look it up if you don't believe me. And another famous person that's from New Jersey area is Bruce Springsteen. I can't say that without losing my top denture. But I knew Whitney Houston. So I made these tapes for people who wanted to be an Elvis Presley look-alike entertainer, and these people were all heading. They needed the tape because it was a tape they would use to get a gig in maybe Las Vegas. So I advertised my services in a newspaper, and I lived in Westfield, New Jersey, which is a beautiful town, and I had a proper studio in my house, which was all made out of foam panels that were it was anechoic foam. So there were no echoes in the studio. It wasn't a very live studio. I had hard walls. And when you have a studio, you have to control the reverberation. So I had these mics, and people would come over my house. I'd charge them for 2 hours and make a master tape. Now, I didn't need a 24-track recorder to do this, and the Nagra 42L used the full width of 1/4-inch tape and made a monaural recording, not stereo. So I would take that and then, after the fact, treat it with a Dolby system and DBX it was called at the time. It's a system to modify and equalize the sound so you get a very full professional sound. Well, I'm going to turn the camera around. Can you see those little mutts? I don't think they could. I don't think those dogs could bite a banana. So it's getting late now, and but there still seems to be enough light to make this movie. So anyhow, to make this shorter, I had this sound studio for about 2 years, and my mother asked me, "When are you going to pay off the tape recorder?" And I said, "I don't know, Mom. I'm not making that much money." And I would get about $200 in those days for a session, which be maybe they would do their act, their gig over and over again, and I have to retape it, and then they would listen to it, and I would patiently choose the best track that they made, and that would be their show reel that they'd use for their auditions. So they would have to turn in these tapes to companies so that they would get hired. And I remember those days very well. I had this one guy who was an Elvis Presley look-alike, and he was well, he was entertainer. Sawadi Cup. Cup. So these are my neighbors. I don't really know, you know. I mean, nobody introduces themselves to you here. You have to take the initiative. I was talking to Surilak about that. I offered Teda's husband, because he was he's lonely now and doesn't have this wonderful woman that was my friend. I mean, I still think about her dying, and it's the way she died, the untimeliness of her death. And I think just 2 days before this all happened, I was on my way walking to get massage in another neighborhood, another Muban. And she stopped. She drives a Mercedes, and I think they were very proud of the fact that they had a Mercedes. And she asked me if I wanted to get a ride to wherever I was going. And I told her, I know I'm going for massage at Muban, a village that's very close to where my house is. I was walking there. I walk everywhere. In my house, I have 3 floors, so I'm constantly walking up and down steps. And I think that's what kept me alive at this age, and probably will keep me alive. And then my diet is plant-based and completely changed. I'm so serious about what I eat now, and I actually reversed diabetes that I've had for 13 years. I'm not off medication for it. I'm still on metformin, but my blood sugar, my ambient blood sugar, if you took it right now, would be probably 110. And that's remarkable for a person with diabetes type 2 that's had it more than 13 years. It has impacted me, and the dangerous thing is that if you have it, it will slowly impact your kidneys and your liver, and they're not replaceable. Even here, even if you went to China to try to buy organs, you're not going to get it. So it's hard. It's really hard. The liver is very regenerative. It's probably the most regenerative organ in your body. But Teda has been in my prayers every night now. And I so remember her just 2 days ago or 3 days ago. Her funeral was Saturday. We were wearing black and we went to the Wat. And what they do is after the monk ceremony, they walk around this house which is the place they're going to cremate the body. So she was in a deep freezer before that because after she died, they kept her in a very cold coffin that's refrigerated, and then she was transferred to a wooden coffin that would be her cremation coffin. Now, I don't know how the body's prepared and all, but one of the things that happens is all the guests who come, you give a little envelope with some money in it. We gave her nice money, and you get into another building at the temple. As you see behind me talking right now, I'm putting up some of the images of the people get together, the immediate family, holding a picture of the deceased person, of Teda, and they walk around the temple maybe 3 times. They walk around the place, the cremation house, 3 times. And then the person is cremated. I just feel for the gentleman who's been her husband for all these years, and how he probably is in such distress of loneliness and all. He's a real quiet gentleman, a really lovely man. I've known them 25 years in my village. I went to his house to offer him like a little brotherhood, and we'd walk around the village. I need the walking every night and every day. I used to be able to do this around the lake in Teda, which is quite beautiful, especially when the sun is going down. It's so romantic and beautiful, the lake. So now I'm doing it in my village, and I'm surprised how dark it is and how the screen on my little camera looks great. Okay, so I gave this gentleman an old chair that I had, a steel chair, and he wanted it because he was going to make a beautiful job out of it, and my wife Paliabog Swemak. So look at this chair. So he took my old chair and repainted it and made a beautiful job out of it. So these are my neighbors, you know, I tossed this chair because I thought it was useless, and he took the wood and made new wood. And he
อันนี้คือจะไม่เรียบร้อยเท่าไหร่เพราะว่าถ้านั่นต้องอุดแล้วก็ขัดแล้วไม่ให้มีรอยสกรูแล้วหยอดแล้วขัดอันนี้เราใช้เอง
สวยมาก
เราใช้เอง4 ตัว
ไม่เป็นไรอันนี้สวยตัว so what he's telling me he put in screws
just
to hold the top of the chair down and he put in a back on the chair and the size sway and the opening sway, you know, and he balanced the whole thing himself. He did it himself. D-mark, ching ching, sway mark.
ทำใช้เองก็ไม่ต้องถ้าไม่งั้นเราก็ต้องอุดรอยตะเข็บแล้วก็ขัดไม่มีสกรูทุกอย่าง
But you did a beautiful job on it. And did you sand it, do we? Yeah. So he sanded the chair and the wood himself. And it's ani young pala mai? Young pala.
My
son. So it means white wood, my son. It's lovely. Nice job.
ถ้าเป็นไม้สักจะวิลิกูส
Yeah.
ไม้สักหายาก
Very nice. Yeah.
หายากด้วย
โชค
เพราะ
ดี
ไม้สงวนทำไม้สักชอบผมเป็นคนชอบไม้เก่าๆ
Yeah.
ถ้ามีเตียงเก่าๆอะไรต่ออะไรเป็นไม้สักหรืออะไรเนี่ยผมจะรื้อหมดมาทำอะไรต่ออะไร modify furniture พวกเนี้ยเนี่ยผมจะทำพวกเนี้ย
ผมทำ furniture ด้วยผมสอน furniture design
สอนเฟอร์นิเจอร์ด้วย
ได้ผมสอน electronics
อิเล็กทรอนิกส์ผมก็ชอบ
Yeah, I see you have an equalizer. So over here, he's got an equalizer going and a speaker and midodui. He has a screen too. So he's very handy guy. Yeah, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll pick this up in the next video where I'll have a little bit more embellished stories to tell you, which I've never had the opportunity to tell anybody.